For more, let's cross to Kyiv. Daria Kaleniuk is Executive Director of Ukraine's Anti-Corruption Action Center. Thank you for being with us here on France 24.
Thank you for hosting me.
We spoke with you last Thursday at the outset of that week-long protest movement. Are you satisfied? Is the protest movement for you over?
I'm half satisfied as President Zelensky implemented only half of our demands. He dismissed old-school Soviet-style General Syrsky with reform-oriented and completely different style of leadership, General Mykhailo Fedorov. So it gives us a lot of hope. However, Mykhailo Fedorov alone will not be able to handle such a complicated challenge by reforming our entire defense sector, including defense procurements. So another half of our demands is returning Mykhailo Fedorov back to the Minister of Defense. We still cannot understand why President Zelensky dismissed a reform-oriented minister.
Fedorov, who met with the Ukrainian president on Tuesday, I'm seeing reports that he's been offered some kind of a cabinet position. What have you heard and what are you thinking is going to happen?
I'm hearing that he refused all other alternative proposals except for Minister of Defense post. Before becoming Minister of Defense, he actually already was Vice Prime Minister for many years. Mykhailo Fedorov went on last Friday, public and explained he doesn't need this position as a minister to be a minister. He needs this position to complete his vision of changes and reforms to win the war. And Mykhailo Fedorov, in his press conference, he actually mentioned how Alexander Syrsky, our former commander of chief, was blocking most of these reforms. And he mentioned alternative. He mentioned our new commander-in-chief, Mykhailo Fedorov, as the example of the person who actually would support the change. So basically, we don't have time now to waste for the new minister to start understanding what's going on in the Ministry of Defense. It's a very complicated ministry. It is handling huge budget. It has a lot of interests. It has a lot of issues to handle. And Minister Fedorov already knows how to handle that. Our President Zelensky explained the need to dismiss Minister Fedorov because of his conflict with our former commander-in-chief. Now there is no conflict with the new commander-in-chief. So basically, we understand that it's going to be reasonable and beneficial for the defense of Ukraine to return this minister back. Therefore, the rallies in Ukraine will continue. This Friday, there's going to be another big rally all across the country.
Yeah, it may have been misleading at the outset when we kind of seemed to introduce the new head of the military as a new name. Doing the rounds a lot on social media over the last 24 hours are those images of Mykhailo Fedororov's mechanized unit storming into Mariupol back in 2014. Ukrainians remember that moment. So he's not a new face. But as you just said, Daria, this is a different task in 2026, reforming the military. Is he up to it?
He is up to it. I'm hearing very positive feedbacks about Mykhailo Fedorov from actually our military. So he respects the opinions of lower-level soldiers and surgeons. He is actually the representative of the new wave of our generals who have been tested in combat since 2014 and then after the large-scale invasion. But he alone, as I have explained, will not be able to fix our defense sector and our military. Because for that, we need the teamwork of the Minister of Defense and General Staff. Basically, our civilian ministry leading different policies and procedures and political decisions needs to work very closely, hand by hand, with our military leaders in order to change our defense sector and to sustain our initiative on the battlefield and actually win this war.
So you talk about the civilian and the military side of it. You were worried last Thursday when the new acting head was in fact a military man. Is that what still a preoccupying issue for you?
The new acting head is a military. He's coming from intelligence service of Ukraine. So actually it's against the law for the Minister of Defense, for the new Minister of Defense to be still military. But even this is not the main thing which is a problem for me. I think that the reason why Mykhailo Fedorov was fired was his actually successes in fighting corruption in defense sector and in lethal procurements. The Ministry of Defense of Ukraine is the largest spender of money in our country, of Ukrainian taxpayers' money. There will be coming more flows of funds from the EU. We critically need this money to procure Ukrainian cheap and effective weapons, and it is critical to ensure that this money are being properly handled. There are no vested interests and corrupt interests engaged in all these procurement procedures. And I know for sure that Mykhailo Fedorov and his team were treating this risk seriously. We are aware of many schemes in defense little procurements who have been in our MOD, unfortunately, for decades. And finally, we've got the minister with a clear vision and will how to eradicate the schemes. And we've been observing for the last 6 months very successful results. First thing which Mykhailo did, he actually moved some of drones procurements from non-competitive procurements into the competitive procurements, which allowed us to save lots of money, billions of hryvnias. So we are in very scarce resources, including money resources. Therefore, we have to count every euro, every hryvnia. And I think that many vested interests and corrupt interests didn't like that. And they have rallied behind old school Soviet generals. They have rallied behind different politicians inside Parliament of Ukraine, even inside Office of President. And for some reason, President Zelensky picked up the side of all these vested interests. I do hope that the people of Ukraine who are going on rallies and expressing we are expressing our outrage with such a decision will convince President Zelensky to change his mind, as we are a democracy.
Yeah, a democracy, and it's the second time in as many years where protests by people such as yourself have forced at least a partial climb down by the president. Is it more of a democracy today? After all, there are no elections because it is a time of war.
In time of war, we are very limited in how people can influence the decisions of our top leadership. And we can't have elections for the good reason. Therefore, if we are outraged with the decisions of our top leader, President Zelensky, we go public and we go with protests. And this is happening not very often. This is happening only in the decisions which are just illogical. They are against the interests of the Ukrainian people. They are against our strategy of survival and strategy of winning and strategy of defense. They are against our vision of becoming the EU member. This is what has happened last year when President Zelensky tried to destroy independency of our anti-corruption institutions and actually put on risk our EU integration. People of Ukraine stood up against that and protected our anti-corruption institutions. President Zelensky had to vote back the very bad laws. And now it's the same. President decided to change entire government with the sole goal to get rid of reform-oriented minister who was successful in fighting corruption and lethal procurement. We can't understand why it is in the interest of Ukrainian people. I understand that it might be in the interest of the vested interests and some corrupt officials and some people who are behind low-integrity defense military businesses. But I can't understand why such decisions help my country to survive and help my people to be safer in this country, while literally every day there are Russian missiles and drones trying to humiliate and terrorize our civilian cities, and every day people on the front lines are dying. So every single day of delay with these reforms in defense sector costs us human lives. So we can't wait. We can't wait for the new minister just to spend months to just understand what's going wrong and what needs to be changed in MOD. We already have a minister with clear vision who started to do his reforms. We need to let him finish the job.
Daria Kaleniuk, many thanks for joining us from Kyiv.
Thank you.